We're pleased to have you come before us today to talk about certainly a variety of issues that are important to constituents at home and many hardworking American taxpayers that interface with the IRS. Last year, in the midst of the outcry over the NSA and the IRS targeting of specifically conservative groups based upon ideology, there was a little-known, I think, breach of public trust that was occurring at the IRS and at other federal agencies that was brought to light, which I think is as stunning or more stunning than some of the other concerns that are constantly raised in the media. And that was the IRS and other federal agencies admitted that they were reading the emails and electronic correspondence of Americans without a warrant, without respect for Fourth Amendment privacy protections. And the IRS went so far to be brazen enough to say that Americans do not have a reasonable expectation of privacy when it comes to their email correspondence. It's stunning. And so under your leadership, I guess my question would be for you, is the IRS continuing to read the emails or other electronic correspondence, the private correspondence of Americans, without a warrant in contravention of Fourth Amendment rights? And secondly, when it was reading those emails, are you aware if it was reading both conservative and liberals' private emails equally, or was it also targeting those private readings without warrants just on conservatives as it was targeted by other portions of the IRS?
This is the first time I've heard that the IRS read anybody's email, so I can't give you any further information, but I will definitely look into that, and I will get back to you with answers to your questions.
Oh, I appreciate it, and I'm sure that that if that is occurring, sir, would you, I guess, to the committee, agree to ensure that it no longer occurs at the IRS?
I would be happy to say if we have no authority to do it, then we should not be doing it. Now, Criminal Investigations does investigate. We had 4,500 recommendations for indictments last year, so there's a whole enforcement arm of the IRS that has law enforcement authority, works with the Justice Department and state and local government. So I don't know how much of this is in their domain, but let me
Well, the IRS, the SEC, and other agencies have argued that they have legal authority under a 1986 law that does not treat electronic correspondence the same way it treats paper correspondence. This is outrageous to a lot of our constituents on both sides of the aisle. And in fact, many interest groups and entities across the country have spoken out about this. I've introduced a bill along with Congressman Graves, my colleague here, and Democratic members that has over 175 bipartisan co-sponsors to ensure that this practice stops at a variety of federal agencies. And so I guess in your leadership, I would hope that you could ensure that you would head that off at the pass, that the IRS would not be engaged in that practice, and that Americans could trust that their private correspondence is not being read by some IRS agent without a warrant, at least, or following the normal due process protections that are outlined in the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution.
I think it's a very serious matter. I take it seriously. I will look into it, and I will personally get back to you.
Good. I appreciate that, sir. Thank you for your testimony on that. The issue has been raised regarding 501c4 groups. That's certainly been discussed in this committee and many committees, and it's an issue that many Americans are concerned about. I understand that the IRS is attempting to write regulations that might make the enforcement potentially easier on the IRS. I think the biggest concern that many of us have is that most Americans didn't have a lot of trust already, and now they have very little trust that the IRS is being fair in their enforcement of the law. I've had folks say that they don't want to get involved in campaigns or be associated with any groups because they're afraid they're going to be personally subjected to audits. Now, I'm sure you would say today, and I hope that's not happening, but I guess regardless of what rules we write at the IRS, it's not the rules themselves, it's how they're enforced, and it's whether they're enforced fairly and whether we can trust the people, the individuals, in their private moments to do the right thing. And so I guess, sir, what can you do to ensure that the folks like Lois Lerner and others, that even if the rules are there, that they enforce them fairly? That's the biggest concern for my constituents, not new rules, but that the rules are enforced fairly.
I agree with you, and that's a situation, as I say, the public needs to have that comfort and confidence. One of the reasons I'm spending as much time talking to frontline employees is I'm trying to make sure that our culture encourages everybody at all levels of the organization to raise issues and problems and concerns wherever they have them. Danny Werfel set in motion the beginnings of a program of a risk management, and I've told people that everybody has to be a risk manager in the agency, and one of the important risks is to make sure that we're following the law, we're treating taxpayers fairly. We have a lot of rules to make sure that happens, a lot of review processes, but it does depend on people. And my concern is to make sure that any employee that is concerned, has a problem, sees anything going on that they feel does not reflect well on the IRS, doesn't treat taxpayers fairly, they need to be comfortable they can raise that directly, either to me or anyone else.
Well, and to that end, sir, we had Commissioner Schulman come before us and confirm long before this became an issue. We asked him in this committee, is this happening? Would you ever allow this happen? And he assured us that it couldn't happen, it wouldn't happen. And so we've heard these assurances before. So just be aware that the trust is not there between Congress and the IRS either, because we've had folks sit in your chair and say, you can trust me, this isn't happening.
And what I would say that, not again, my point earlier was when I get parachuted into these things, my rule is play the hand you're dealt and not spend a lot of time second-guessing decisions. But as I've told employees, our goal is not to have any mistakes. We've got 90,000 employees in a complicated tax law, so some things are not going to always go perfectly. And I've told them, my view of running an organization is, if there's a problem, it's my problem and we'll work on it together. If there's a mistake, it's my mistake and we'll work on it together. And if there's a problem I don't know about, that's my fault, because that means we have not built a culture where issues, problems, difficulties, mistakes get raised through the system. So my view is, I'm responsible for and accountable for everything the agency does. And whenever we make a mistake, we're going to find it, we're going to fix it quickly, and we'll be transparent about it. And if I don't know about it, as I say, that's my fault, because I'm trying to get the organization comfortable that, as I've told them, every individual needs to feel bad news is good news. I can't help a problem, solve the problem, unless I know it exists.
I appreciate those statements of personal accountability and responsibility, and I look forward to good results from your leadership, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera-Butler is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. I have a couple questions. Not quite where Mr. Yoder was coming